Bow.
Hey, it's a Bindi on a Friday here. Welcome to the Blue Review presented by LAX. We got lasers and everything. I'm Marcus Grant, joined by Greg Bergman, Parker Bell, and welcome back.
Welcome
back.
back.
It's me again, pal.
Thank you. Trade deadline's almost here, so now I'm ready to be back in here.
Yeah, it's good. We were sort of joking that you go off the grid, the Dodgers can't figure it out, you come back to civilization, and the Dodgers get a win. So the easy solution is that you can't ever leave again.
Yeah, I joked. I don't think I've seen them lose in like 2 weeks. I think they're 1-9 in my 2 trips off the grid. But I come back into service, and 90 minutes later, Freddie Freeman's hitting a walk-off home run. So I don't know what to tell you guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would call that a home run, but either way, it was a walk-off.
Well,
so we'll take it.
He drove a run home. That's important.
Two of them.
Two of them.
Either way.
So anyway, the Dodgers coming off an off day. They are heading to Boston for a big showdown between themselves and the Boston Red Sox. A series that I would dare say a couple of months ago didn't look like it might be as consequential. I mean, the Red Sox were sort of just kind of there, not doing much of anything. Then all of a sudden they've kind of gotten hot and kind of made it interesting in the AL East, although it seems like the Blue Jays are starting to run away with things in the division right now. But the Red Sox just 2 games behind the Yankees for second place in the division. Jeff, I know you haven't really seen this team much, but I'm sure you've been sort of checking in when and where you have service. Just your thoughts on how things have gone for the last couple of weeks with this group.
They're keeping their head above water a little bit. It probably hasn't felt like that day to day, but I think every team is going to go through these stretches where things don't look perfect. And I think the good news if you're the Dodgers is, not to skip ahead of this Red Sox series, but they're probably like a week away from maybe getting their best pitcher back in Blake Snell and maybe getting their best reliever back in Blake Trinan. And so obviously that doesn't help them this weekend against the Red Sox, but they are where they are in the standings. They still have a reasonable lead in the division. And again, I think health-wise, it actually feels like they might be trending in the right direction for a change.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the good part, right? I mean, the guys are starting to get their swings back, it looks like, at least some of them. Freddie Freeman looks like he's starting to get his swing back. Andy Pages, after a little bit of a downturn, starting to swing the bat well again. And Max Muncy apparently is ahead of schedule. Greg, we have to mark this down. For maybe the first time ever, a Dave Roberts prognosis has gone ahead of where we thought it would be. Like, this has never happened before.
It's always the complete opposite. So that's really exciting that he's actually telling the truth for the first time in his managerial career. It's an exciting time. But honestly, getting Muncy back is a huge thing. And I know it's not for another couple of weeks, but even so, that it changes basically everything for this team. It changes that guys that were out of position can go into position, and then you have a guy that you can trust in the middle of the lineup again. Even though, it might take a little bit for him to get back to where he was, he still is a consistent force in there. And if his eye is what it was right before he left, where he was being patient, taking walks, hitting home runs, getting big hits, all of a sudden that whole lineup lengthens all over again. And you can move Tommy Edman back to center field or to second base. Teo, eventually you can move Pages to right and Teo can go to left. Everything just kind of seems okay when Muncy comes back. I know he's not the end all be all, but it kind of feels like he's going to be at this moment because it fixes so many things all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, I know, Parker, when they lost Muncy, he was probably the hottest hitter on the team at that point. I thought it was playing a really good third base. And I think to Greg's point, it would be nice to kind of stabilize not only the lineup, the batting order, but the defensive alignment as well. And I mean, I don't know. I know there's a lot going on with this team, but could we kind of low-key say Muncy right now is looking like one of the MVPs of this squad just because of what he's meant for this team?
Well, you know what? Yeah, there is always that caveat of like the team's MVP. Obviously, Shohei's going to be the best player in the world, and that's always going to be true. But in terms of just pure impact, Muncy was starting to get there. I mean, he was Travis Rogers, of course, of Travis and DeMarco. He was his MVP pick early on, and he thought that he would be potentially a near 40 home run guy. And that may not be the case, but in terms of just impact all around, Marcus, you're correct. I mean, because you got guys like Edman, who's been dealing with nagging injuries, Kike, who's been dealing with nagging injuries. Muncy was that stabilizing force, and it's going to be great to have him back. I think, Jeff, looking at the defense, there's been so much, well, you've been off the grid, but there's just been so much talk about how upsetting it is. You're seeing errors constantly. It's just not a good ball club. To have a guy like Muncy, who's also a vocal leader, I think it's going to be amazing to have back.
And I'll just add, I appreciate the optimism we have here. We have a guy who's headed to Arizona for live ABs, and you're all ready to announce that Dave Roberts is telling us the truth on injuries. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm usually the most optimistic guy in the room. I love this. But yeah, I mean, look, who would have ever thought that Max Muncy might solve defensive problems for the Dodgers? I don't think many people had that on their bingo
But it
card.
does.
But it does, because you can at least just plug like Tommy Edman into one spot and say, you play here, and Teoscar Hernandez, you play here. And it just kind of like, I think the settle down effect overall, not to mention when you're scoring more runs offensively, it takes a little pressure off you defensively. So I think everything you guys just said, I'm in total agreement with.
Yeah. Again, wild, right? Especially considering the way Muncy started the year, both offensively and defensively, right? I mean, defensively, it was rough over at third base. The first month, 6 weeks of the season, dude couldn't hit the ground if he fell down. I mean, that's how bad it was at the plate for him. For him to get to the point where he really has become that stabilizing force has been a really, really big deal. Obviously, Jeff, part of the big thing has been pitching, for the last couple of weeks. Relief pitching, most specifically, the bullpen has kind of been a mess right now. You talk about Blake Trinan coming back really soon. The trade deadline is going to be important because they got to go and get some arms. As you've been sort of, scribbling and thinking and making notes, are there any guys that you think, would be interesting targets for this group when the trade deadline hits?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different tiers of players, and we talked about this on our show last night, but I think there's kind of a top tier that I would put Emmanuel Clase of the Guardians, Joan Duran of the Twins, and probably Griffin Jacks of the Twins as well. The first two guys, Clase and Duran, are both like top elite end closers. They're both under team control for a while. Clase through 2028, Duran through 2027, and then you've got Griffin Jacks, who's not a closer, but who's striking out like a guy and a half per inning. And it's also under team control through 2027. So that's like if you want to shop at the top of the market and not only get an elite player, but have team control. And you're talking about, like, I think the Twins have said they want 2 top 100 prospects for one of those guys. So, do the math. The Dodgers have some top 100 prospects, but do you want to trade Alex Freeland and Jackson Ferris for a closer? That's the question. Or if that's even it, or is it DePaula or Hope or Rushing or somebody else they go after? I think there's another tier. David Bednar's an interesting name for the Pirates. He got auctioned earlier in the season and then was the reliever of the month in the month of June. So he has figured things out. Helsley is the guy from the Cardinals who's a rental. He'll be gone at the end of the season. And then Pete Fairbanks, whatever the Rays decide to do. So I said last night, Bednar to me is an interesting one because I just wonder if you're the Pirates, if you had this panic moment in April when you optioned him and said, holy crap, we could have traded this guy for a haul of prospects and we totally blew it. And if that thought is just going to be hovering in the back of your mind and saying, we need to trade this guy because we don't want him to fall apart again and then to miss. So Bednar's a name that's interesting to me. Bruce on our show liked Helsley. So there's a bunch of names for you, but lots of different options.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I just want to back on to what Jeff's saying here. Bednar would be good. I know he's gone up and down. I'm kind of on the Helsley train too because you don't have to give up a lot for him. He's a 2-month rental, and he doesn't have great numbers this year, but he's been pretty good recently. Since June 19th, he's only given up 1 earned run. He does give up a couple of hits, and every once in a while there's a walk, but for the most part, he has not given up. He's only 1 run since the 19th of June. So that is way better than what we have in our bullpen right now of giving up constant 4 runs at a time for whoever it happens to be. And I haven't seen a home run from him for quite some time, not since June 14th. So, or actually, since June 14th and giving up a home run, which again, our relievers give up lots and lots and lots of home runs. So Helsley, for what it's going to cost, seems like a good guy to go look at.
Yeah. I guess the other part of this is trying to figure out, what you want to do beyond just this year. I mean, obviously the main focus is trying to get this team built and set up for another pennant run, for another World Series run. But if you are talking about giving up anything, right? I mean, how many of these guys do you want to be sort of 1-year rentals, knowing that you're going to have to reshuffle this bullpen again, potentially in the offseason. I know, Greg, you always love to say the guys that are in the bullpen usually in March and April are not going to be the guys in the bullpen in September and October.
My favorite thing.
Yeah, I know. Parker, that being said, it does feel like, I guess the challenge is trying to build a bullpen for now while also still trying to keep a team or a framework together for the next few years, right? I mean, you still want to try to win while you've got Shohei, while you've got Freddie and Mookie. I mean, it's still sort of that balancing act, right?
It does also, Greg. You reminded me of LeBron when he was doing his oh yeah, that's my favorite saying. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that meme, but
except mine's real. I actually do say it for the last
you 8
years.
So. But yeah, to your point, Marcus. I mean, but the thing is, on the other end, it's like they have been a rotating cast this whole time, and the one time that they actually make long-term deals, these guys go on the IL, and it's been a really rough year. So maybe they should have stuck to their old formula of just having some ragtag group of guys. I don't know, Jeff. I mean, when they were running out Bonda, he had a little magic last year, when they pulled him in, and he's still kind of holding out strong. You got guys like Vesia who've been around for a while, of course, but it's going to be tough to see how they move forward because you got guys who are going to align with this offensive power. And when you have guys on the starting lineup, of course, this starting rotation who are being hurt, it's weird. It's weird how this Dodgers team's constructed, and I think that while they are World Series favorites, I don't know who's going to be here and who's not going to be here for the next 3 years.
Let me go crazy optimistic on this bullpen situation because I know Dave Roberts has said it's an urgent need, and I know every fan is watching Tanner Scott implode and Kirby Yates look cooked and all the stuff, and they're saying, "Hey, I know, sorry, that's your guy, Greg. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that about Kirby Yates, but
no.
But like the way that this bullpen is constructed, I actually think there's a world where the pieces are there. Like Blake Treinen, we mentioned, is coming back. When he's right, he's one of the best relievers in baseball. Alex Vesia and Jack Dreyer have not been deployed as like back end guys necessarily, but both have ERAs that start with 2, despite being two of the most most used relievers in Major League Baseball. I think Kopech could be back by the end of August. Tanner Scott expected back before the end of the season. Gratterall, there was a video post, I think, yesterday that he was traveling to Los Angeles. There's optimism that he could be back by the end of the year. And then the piece that I keep coming back to is there's going to be excess starting pitchers that might make their way into the bullpen. And so if Emmett Sheehan is a relief arm, if Justin Robleski is a relief arm, if Dustin May becomes a relief arm, like I'm not saying the Dodgers shouldn't go out and trade for somebody, but I also don't think like the World Series hinges on if they add to this bullpen. If they don't add anyone, I still think there's a world where we feel really good about the 6 to 8 guys that they can throw out there in a postseason game, Greg.
So, yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And this is kind of what we've been talking about for the last few weeks when you weren't here. Is that you're going to have 4 number 1 starters.
Yeah.
Between Yamamoto, Glasnow, Snell, and Shohei Ohtani, you have 4 legit number 1 starters that can go 5 to 6 or 7 innings, and then you have a shortened bullpen. So all those guys that you're talking about are going to be able to pitch and pitch less. Yeah. So that is a huge part about all of this. By getting Snell back and getting Muncy back, those are huge deadline acquisitions. So that's kind of why I lean towards a guy like Ryan Helsley, because bullpen is very volatile. It is something that comes and goes at all times. I don't want to put more assets into our relief pitching by losing a guy like Josue De Paula or by losing somebody else down in the minor league system for a relief arm that's going to be terrible next year. So I think a lot of that is like, I agree with you that I think our bullpen will be fine when it gets down, when they're not being used as much as they're going to be used. Kershaw pitching as well. Like he goes about 5 right now. Your guy, yeah. He's not going to be in the postseason. I still truly believe that, but he is pitching well.
I was curious when you stopped at 4 number 1 starters. I was like, there's a 5th guy sitting right there with him. He's 2 over his last 15 starts. But neither here nor there.
He's been great. I loved the emotion he showed on Sunday too when he was pissed because Estuary Reese couldn't throw a ball into the infield.
Yeah, no, he's been very good. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I know he kind of got off to a slow start. He looked like a guy who was in his 18th major league season and coming off some injuries, but he's really turned it around since then. You mentioned a name though, Jeff, and I'm curious your thoughts on this. Will Dustin May still be a Dodger on August 1st?
Yeah.
So this was I did 10 bold predictions at the beginning of the season, and one of my bold predictions was that Dustin May would get traded away from the Dodgers this season. And the thought process, that looked like a terrible take, by the way, like 8 weeks into the season when every starting pitcher on the Dodgers was hurt. This looked like an atrocious take. We've come back around now at this point in the season. But the two reasons I think he will be gone, well, I guess I'll say 3 reasons. One is I think the Dodgers, and you're not allowed to say this out loud, but I keep doing it, they seem to have a lot of depth at starting pitcher right now, to the point that like he might be the 8th or 9th best starting pitcher the Dodgers have. That's one. Number 2 is I don't think it's a given that he's going to be effective as a reliever. Everyone looks at the velocity and the movement and say, oh my gosh, this guy would be amazing in the bullpen. Guess what? We said the same thing about him as a starting pitcher, and it's never materialized. And so that's the second thing. The third is the prices get crazy at the deadline. Like, I think the Dodgers are going to get calls, and they're going to say, wait, you're going to give us what for Dustin May, who's going to be a free agent at the end of the year and might not be on our playoff roster anyways? And so I know a lot of people have talked about him as like an insurance policy to injuries, and I'm like, how good of an insurance policy is it, though? Like, if he's starting playoff games, I don't think anyone's going to be excited about it. So I just assume there's going to be an offer that somebody's going to want to overpay for a starting pitcher, and the Dodgers, knowing that he's just a rental, will say yes. That's my guess.
All right. I mean, I don't think that's a crazy thought, but you were right. You know, after the first month or so of the season, the idea that they would trade Dustin May away seemed absolutely insane. But here we are.
Do you think that Dustin May, though, what we saw from him on his piggyback start of Shohei Ohtani, he could be a long reliever because that's typically what his season has been. Innings 1 through 3 is just blow up disaster, and somehow he figures himself out. And from 3 to 7, he's great. Or 3 to 6, he's pitches really well, and that's what we saw against Ohtani too. When Ohtani went those 3 innings in his last start, he went from 4 to almost finishing the game. So he looked really, really good in that situation because as a reliever, he doesn't have to hold back his pitches. He can just kind of throw, and he was getting strikeouts. He was getting some swing and miss. He was doing it a lot better. So I don't know, maybe not being that starter. I'm not advocating for them to not trade him. But also, if he stays, I can see him being the long reliever in the form of a Sheehan, who was terrible in his start, and Robleski and those types of shit. Having him, I think they might trust May more than they would Sheehan and Robleski in that long relief role.
Maybe. Or you know, other thinking outside the box is that when he starts, we just put a 3 up on the first inning and just tell him it's like the 3rd or something
Right.
like that.
He's
right?
better after that.
Right. I mean, just tell him it's the 3rd inning, and then let him get the ball and go from there. But I do think there's a numbers game at work here, right? Jeff, is that, you know, you've got May, you mentioned Robleski, you know, for better or worse, I think Kasparius is still going to get some more opportunities when you get into August and September, you know, as long as the calf and the cramping and stuff is okay. It just feels like there are too many arms. Like, to your point, right? There's so much depth. There's too much arms. There's not enough slots. Also, for what it's worth, Bobby Miller is still a person that is drawing oxygen on this planet. I mean, you talk about the pantheon of guys where I'm sure GMs look around and like, I can fix him. Bobby Miller seems like he's high on that list of like, the velocity is there, the stuff is there, whatever's wrong seems to be between his ears. I mean, these are all potentially names that can maybe help this team acquire other pieces, or I don't know if there's any. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this, Jeff, but these are all guys that seem to kind of fit a role here in some way or other.
Totally. And I would add, like, a guy who was really good last year. He struggled this year in AAA, but Landon Knack is still a player that exists who, like, are we positive that Dustin May is dramatically better than Landon Knack right now? I know this isn't a name that necessarily fires a ton of people up, but Roki Sasaki did throw a 39-pitch bullpen on Wednesday and is progressing as well. It seems like Tony Gonsolin might be done for the year, but like, again, I just think if you go down the list of like, where do you drop down a tier below Dustin May, you might have to get to 9 or 10 pitchers before you get to that point. And numbers game related, you mentioned that, Marcus, he can't be optioned. Like, so they have to have him on the major league roster if he is going to remain within the organization. So that also adds to the complicated nature of this. The Dodgers liked having flexibility of being able to send Sheehan or Robleski or whoever up and down. They can't do that with Dustin May.
Yeah, all stuff that's interesting to talk about. We still got a few more days. The trade deadline hits a week from today? Yesterday. That's right. I got to get my dates right. So still a few more days. We can kind of kick this around before the Dodgers actually have to pull the trigger on anything. Let's look ahead, though, to the weekend. Parker, big 3-game series in Boston. I don't know if we've gotten any updates. I know the talk was that Mookie Betts may miss tonight's game because of some personal situations. But as for the team as a whole, Parker, is there a hope? Do you feel like what we saw getting that walk-off win the other day maybe kickstarts this team and onto what could be a really big road trip?
What may be true in terms of the offensive end, I'm a little worried tonight with Sheehan on the mound. But I'm just excited for the weekend in general. We get to see, as we've spoken about May all episode, May versus Buehler. That's going to be a big, Dodger fan reunion. We're going to be happy to see Buehler up there. I don't know if is that going to be the moment he gets his ring. I don't know if he already has. So there's going to be some cool moments up there. Again, no update on Mookie as of yet, but I think Ohtani is going to break the Dodgers club record. I say he goes for one tonight because he could walk into one at Fenway if he really wanted to. If he pulled one, I think that if you see the fact that Boston has a playoff urgency, there's going to be some, heated moments here. So Greg, this is going to be a really good series actually because, Dodgers now have a 5-game lead over the Padres.
Yep.
This is their moment again to get back up to that 8-ish game that they had before all the All-Star break.
Yeah, they could. And by the way, let's just talking about the Red Sox for a second. I know they went into the break hot, but did we look at who the Red Sox played on their way to being hot? They swept the Washington Nationals, the Colorado Rockies, and the Tampa Bay Rays. I get it. You got to win the games that are in front of you, but they weren't going crazy. And then they immediately after the break lose 2 of 3 to the Cubs and 2 of 3 to the Phillies. So it's not some massive, oh my God, this team is incredible. Let's just kind of relax a little bit. I know the Dodgers beat up on some bad teams too, but still it's a little bit different. I do think that this is going to be a fun series. And if, like you said, if Shohei Ohtani, if he continues going oppo and waiting on the pitches and hitting to the opposite field home runs, which has just been crazy that I think 4 or 5 of his 5 games in a row home runs have all been oppo. He can get over that green monster. Yeah. So that will be fun to watch.
Yeah, be fun to see him try to take one over the monster. Or, worst comes to worst, you just wrap one around the pesky pole down there in right field.
Fine.
Good old 302 feet away or whatever it is.
I am, though, Marcus, a little worried about what Garrett Crochet is going to do to us Saturday. I think that he's going to absolutely deal against the Dodgers.
Hey, it's okay against your boy Jeff versus Kershaw.
2.64 ERA for Kershaw over his last 10 starts.
Here's the thing, right? I mean, I worry more about them versus Walker Buehler and his 5.72 ERA than against Garrett Crochet and the 2.19, right? The way, look, Chris Paddock went out there and dealt against him the other day. But they figure out ways to at least, generate offense against good pitchers. So I don't really know. We'll see. Should be fun. Sheehan tonight against Brian Bello, 4:10 first pitch from Fenway Park. It's actually on Sportsnet LA too. I was worried that this would be a Roku game or an Apple TV game or something like that. So we can watch it in all the usual spots. Jeff, good to have you back, man. Let folks know what's going on with you right now.
Yeah, good to be here. We did a big show last night, kind of state of the Dodgers over on the Dodger Blue 1958 YouTube page. We broke down starting pitching, bullpen, and offensive players, as well as trade targets at all those positions. So go ahead, check that out. Again, Dodger Blue 1958 on YouTube, and we'll be back on Sunday night as well.
Perfect.
Right. Sounds good. In the meantime, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. That'll do it for this edition of the Blue Review presented by LAX. Which, by the way, give a shout out to LAX for the travel experience, saving guests time. Go for more information at flylx.com/transforminglax. We'll go out with a little bit of touch of class around the world. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Stick around. First pitch coming up on the ESPN LA YouTube channel with Greg and Travis and DeMarco. Got me all choked up right now. For Jeff, for Greg, for Parker, I'm Marcus. We'll be back with you on Monday. Blue Review, 8:30, 8:55 here on the ESPN LA YouTube channel. We'll see you guys.
Have a good weekend.